Hey, party people, what's up? And welcome to a happy hump day edition of SJU. I'm here with Eric. Kim is out today, but she will be at the end because we sent her to a Dune junket. So I'm just going to speed through all of this so I can watch more Dune stuff. Why isn't the top story that Dune's coming out early? Why? Dune early, people. Let's all band together like a mob in Halloween Kills and watch this film so it gets a sequel. That aside, we are also talking about the Eternals. There's a lot of reactions, some of which include massive spoilers for the film and its various end credit scenes. I have not seen it. I have not seen the spoilers. Please do not put them in the chat. I will not be discussing them. Eric has seen the film. He knows all the spoilers. He will allude to things without giving them away because he's a pro, okay? He's a professional. He's been here before. He knows what he's doing. So we're going to talk all about that, as well as a big news roundup of some Disney dates getting shuffled around. Mel Gibson's joining John Wick. All right, why not? And Mel Brooks. Hey, a tale of two Mels. Mel Brooks is making movies again.
Good and evil.
Yeah, there are two Mels inside of you and fighting. And the one that wins is the one you beat. Okay, so Eternals had its premiere in LA, and it got some first reactions out of that. And lo and behold, the reactions were positive walking out of a Marvel movie premiere. I'm shocked. Are you shocked, Eric? How shocked are you?
I mean, the only thing I'll say, by the way, so I have to walk a very strange line here because this movie currently, the social media embargo has lifted, but the review embargo hasn't. That's how it works for every big movie. It's weird, I know. So I can't give you my full review, but I can just say, walking into it, it did feel, I know we'll talk a little bit more about this, a little more subdued than other MCU movies on the hype level, though I still was like, well, hopefully it delivers. But yeah, so I was slightly surprised only because going in, I didn't know. I thought, is this going to kind of whiff it? But it feels like the consensus was it did not whiff it, even if it wasn't like raves across the board.
Interesting, but I don't know. That to me sets off some warning bells if it doesn't get raves across the board in the most sympathetic audience possible of people at a premiere and given early access to people who love comic book movies. If they're not raving about it, I don't know.
I will say, talking to people though before, I felt like we were all kind of on the same. There was a lot of like, yeah, I'm not as, we were all kind of agreeing that we weren't as hyped up going in. It wasn't like we were about to see Infinity War, or other things like that. It was just like, okay. So I didn't feel like it kind of had that same thing going in, even to the premiere, just talking to people I knew, other press,
No, it's true. Like the biggest story surrounding the Eternals has been Kumail getting shredded. That's like overshadowed the entire film as far as the think pieces about that have come out. And then they released a clip of the Eternals in action, and it looked like them fighting about a bunch of CGI dog monsters with their eye beams, and it didn't do anything to move the needle for me one way or another. That said, there's some reactions coming out. They're coming out fast and furious, and people are just saying, I can just throw some of these out, that the cast absolutely kills it. Chloe Zhao is taking you on a thrilling emotional journey. The cosmic side is expanding. He was saying it feels different from the other MCU films. Would you characterize that as correct, Eric?
There are some things about it I think that do feel distinct in the MCU. Yes. Yeah.
Well, and filled with twists. And that brings us to our friends at Variety who decided to share. I didn't see the tweets. I don't know what it was, but two reporters from Variety spoiled one of the film's two mid-credit scenes, and people were not thrilled with that. Some people just kind of shrugged, and some people think they should get the death penalty. Do you think that this will kind of upset the tenuous balance of power between journalists and studios? Like it's a system of trust that they let you see this early, and they trust that you won't spill the things that they're holding back. How much does this upset the apple cart, Eric, or is this just happens all the time and they'll keep doing it?
So I got to get a little inside baseball here and talk about the fact that the trades, what we call the trades, are like Variety, THR, the Wrap, Deadline, the sort of industry ones that cover every casting, whatever. I've always noticed their reviews are like very spoilery, and my whole life I've been like, why did they talk about third act stuff? That's crazy. And why are there never consequences? This to me was sort of crossing a crazy line, because we didn't have our phones during the movie, by the way. You had to do like that little pouch, you couldn't access them. So this means they watched the whole movie, walked out, had to wait in a long line to get your phone back, and then we're like, okay, time to spoil the end.
Well, it's the last thing they saw. It's probably the only thing they remember.
Yes, so. So it was crazy to me. A lot of us feel, I say a lot of us because it's like, people in my movie journal Twitter are like, there won't be as big consequences as we wish because for some reason some of these trades seem a little untouchable. There's like a strange symbiotic relationship with the studios. I would hope there's some consequences, with the caveat that the thing that we're always like afraid of is like one a-hole messes it up for everyone, right? It's like, so many of us do our best to not, break these embargoes, to not be a dick, which to me, this was just a dick move, tweeting out what they tweeted. So you hope that like those people might have some consequences without it being like, well, none of you get to, because by the way, they screened Eternals first in New York earlier that day for press, and they didn't show them the closing credit scenes.
Oh, wow.
So they're like, but it's the premiere. Of course they're going to show the entire thing. Angie's there, Angie and Selma get to see the closing credit
She
scenes.
can spoil it.
Right. But the fact that some press are there too, and then some of them decided to spoil it was insane. Because there was also some fans there, by the way, some like cosplayers and people that like somehow win, Yeah. And I think a couple of them probably tweeted out too, but they don't have the audience that these other people have. So I would hope that there's some conversations specifically with the studio and these outlets and their staff, because, and I'll just personally speaking, I was like, I want to still be invited, but also I feel like it would suck if there was like a blanket ban because of a couple very specific people and you can see their name on their tweets.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's a very clear case of, well, or is it a clear case? Like what can you and can't you say about the movie after you've seen it?
I mean, I think these people specifically should know better, because like I said, I think I even tweeted that night. I'm like, look, I know there's some fans here who probably don't kind of know. I think it's not like they made an announcement. Sometimes you will go to a press screening and they'll like make an announcement beforehand about don't give away the surprises. This is the premiere. They didn't do that. But these guys would definitely know, like, hey, say your opinion. You can tweet out like what you thought. Did you like it? Did you didn't? You can tease. You can say like, oh, there's some fun things that happen. I liked, this aspect, without saying, like, again, one of the people specifically was so specific about one of the spoilers, so specific about everything about it, that I was kind of shocked. Like there was nothing held back. And so they knew better. That's the weird thing to me, is that they did know better.
All right, well, I'll put you to the test with some real world scenarios, Eric. I'm going to say that you're walking out of the premiere of and let's say Endgame. Can you tweet that they go back in time? Too much?
So this is on the edge, because the trailers didn't get specific, but it was you could kind of guess that, and it's a first act reveal. So I feel that's one of those things where the people who are trying to avoid anything probably shouldn't even be on social media, right? So I think that one you get a slight pass on, like that there's a time travel aspect, right?
Okay. Let me think of another one. Spider-Man Far From Home. You don't say what character he's playing, but there's a J.K. Simmons cameo.
That I think would be too far, right?
Too far, okay.
It's just it's too much. First of all, his cameo didn't come till the end credits, and so immediately I think that should be off limits, right?
Yeah.
The credit stuff. I think third act, but it's certainly the credit stuff. And then of course something like that specifically. Well, there'd be a lot of people would be talking if they knew that going into the movie.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get some more going in the chat. Give Eric some hypothetical gray area tweets to see where the line does exist. We'll nail this down one of these days.
One thing, by the way, I do want to mention is because Lon suggested this, but he was not alone. A lot of people, I've seen a contingent of people be like, "This is so crazy," because it was like 2 or 3 people from the same outlet all tweeting these spoilers, and so some people were like, "Man, was this like?" Was there like an agreement with Marvel or something? Like, it seems so strange. I don't think that's the case. And I've talked to enough people where unless Kevin Feige was like, hey guys, do this. Yeah. I don't think I understand why people might suspect that, because it is so egregious to the point that you're like, is something going on? But I don't think it was inside job.
Let's put on the tinfoil hats though. Yeah. I love a good inside job, because I think as people are saying, Deviled Ham wrote in our chat, having subdued expectations for this phase is actually a good thing. And I agree, unless you're Disney and they might be like, people don't seem that hyped about the Eternals. Should we dangle a little juicy piece of red meat for the fans to chew on? Maybe get them feeling like this is a big part of the MCU, and they have to see this to catch up with the stories they love, even if they're less familiar with this one.
Yeah,
No,
again,
no chance.
I understand why that suggestion comes up, but I don't think so. I mean, they're coming off Shang-Chi, which going into before that opened, people were like, "Oh, I don't know about this one," and then it opened so great, and did so well. And from what we've heard, pre-sales have been very good for Eternals. Again, it's all on a crazy curve of the fact that the MCU's had multiple movies break $1 billion, even though I still try to remind people they all didn't. Like Thor Ragnarok didn't, Doctor Strange didn't. Yeah. So, this can still make a lot of money and not be like a mega blockbuster. But so I don't know. I just think like the brand is so strong that even if they do think, and I'm sure they do see that this is not the hype levels of some of their other stuff, I don't know if they're at a point like give them a few years before they have to start getting this tricky, I think.
Yeah, before they have to sneak in. Oh, it might be a Batman. You never know. Might be a Batman in there.
Yeah, who knows? We could have made any kind of deal.
All right. That's we'll keep you posted on that. And I don't even want to talk about it because I feel like I might spoil myself somehow. Somehow I'll read between the lines of something Eric said. I'll just see it in his eyes that Batman is in the Eternals. I'll just know somehow.
It's Clooney.
You heard it here first, by the way. We're reporting that.
Variety Clooney plays Bruce Wayne in Eternals. It's crazy.
My sources at Variety tell me that we can say.
Let's move on because it brings us ever closer to Dune. And while we're moving on, like and subscribe and hit that bell and the thumb up. So yeah, never miss another one. We might miss some Marvel movies because I might get the dates wrong. Disney has announced new release dates for most of the MCU films from 2022 and 2023. Every movie almost is being pushed back into the next slot. Doctor Strange 2 going from March to May, Thor 4 going from May to July, Black Panther 2 July to November, blah, 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 and on and on and on and on. So that means so the Eternals is going to come out, and then we'll get Spider-Man in December, right? Yeah,
from Sony. So again, like obviously that's a different studio releasing it.
Yeah, right. But really, we'll have to take a 5-month break from the MCU. All we'll have are Disney Plus series running constantly between now and then. That's not I mean, we had a year off, right? From the MCU, so it's no big deal, right? Just a little shuffling.
I saw some people griping, I think, just because the faucet was off completely, and then it flooded on, right? It's like here's just TV shows constantly, and now we're going to get 4 movies within like 6 months. The people are like, okay, like now we're cooking, we're never gonna go 3 or 4 months without an MCU movie. But I would just say it'll be okay. And don't forget those TV shows. It's like I was thinking, it's like Eternals I think is MCU part 26, but there's also been 30 episodes of TV just this year. There'll be, we know Miss Marvel's coming at some point early next year, followed by like 3 or 4 other shows. So I wouldn't fret too much about this, except to say that they just decided, hey, like this works a little better for this. I also don't think Doctor Strange 2, there was some people saying, oh, they're fleeing from Batman, but it was opening like 4 weeks apart from Batman, so I don't think that was a major factor here.
We'll have plenty of content for the content gods, but what we may never get is Indy 5, the long-awaited Indy 5, pushed almost a year. I feel like this thing's been kicked down the road many times to the point where I wonder if Harrison Ford will see it through to completion. There were actually, well, I don't want to talk about it if you haven't seen it, but I saw some potential huge spoilers for Indy 5 based on like some set leaks, and man, it seems dumb.
You've seen stuff I haven't seen. All I've seen are pictures of him in costume. I haven't seen anything specific beyond that.
Well, if it goes the way I'm thinking it's going, oh boy. But that's happening. Can we sustain this level of hype for Indy 5 this long, Eric?
I mean, it's funny with these movies that get delayed over and over and over again, right? Where you're just like, people are like, does this actually exist? Avatar 2 is obviously the other big one, and 3, 4, and 5. This was weird to me only because it's actually filming. It's been delayed over and over again, but every time that's because they push production a year, even as everyone made the same jokes about Harrison Ford ain't getting any younger. But this time the movie movie is being made right now.
Yeah.
Even though I know Harrison Ford had an injury early on, he's back on set. It could be ready for next summer. So I am surprised by a full year delay. And I just wonder, I guess if you're Disney, right, and you're looking at, we control the universe, and when do we want to hit these giant things, that they decided even not next fall, not even the spring after, just the next summer. So that does surprise. It does surprise me. They waited 11 months, but at least it's filming now, so we know it's like tangible. We've seen those pictures from set, even if we're not sure if it'll be good.
Yes, we've seen some interesting pictures from set. Go look that up if you're curious. I won't spoil it here. Yeah, still plenty of time to land that plane. Forgive the phrase for a Harrison Ford movie, but yeah, it could be great. I like the people involved, but man, it's a long shot.
The only thing I'd really seen, since I don't know what you're alluding to, Spencer, with those photos, is because I did see the photo he took with a bunch of fans who all dressed like Indy. One of them dressed like Sean Connery as his dad.
Nice.
But I was like, oh, what if that's actually from the movie and it's like another multiverse thing? And
you never know.
The Indies of all these different worlds.
Too many Indies.
That's right.
And Batman. Why not? All right.
That's right.
Let's briefly touch on a tale of two Mels before we go dooning. So the Continental, which is the John Wick spin-off series about the hotel, because that's what everyone loves about John Wick, the hotel. That is going to be on Stars, and they have confirmed, young Winston, who's I guess a young Ian McShane, a very digitally de-aged Ian McShane right there. Wow,
Winston Origins, yeah.
Yeah, Winston Origins. And we will get Big Mel. Big Mel's back. Big Mel Gibson is back as I imagine a disgruntled customer of the Continental who gets really mad and throws all the gold coins around and says some really bad things about certain tribes and then gets kicked out of the hotel, right? I mean, this is I don't know. How do you feel about all this, Eric?
I don't understand this casting, just because it's like John Wick has like a lot of goodwill. Like, of course, some people might not like love it, but it's mostly like people like, I enjoy those movies. And certainly Keanu Reeves, the Keanu Sans was such a huge thing, and John Wick was a big part of that. And so there's a lot of goodwill towards this series. Like, those John Wick movies deliver what they say they will. And I love Keanu Reeves is like the consensus. So for them to be like, we're going to add Mel Gibson to the franchise is just a weird sort of thing to, why would you do something that is such a clear lightning rod? Lionsgate produces this series. But the TV show will air on Stars. So I'm just surprised that all those people were like, yeah, this will get good attention to the project.
You're right. Like the lovable Keanu Reeves has met his match in the detested Mel Gibson, who will win out in the end. But I mean, look, it's a spinoff for Stars. Will anyone notice it? No. Let's cast Mel Gibson. Okay, people are talking about it. So there you go.
I'm guessing he actually plays Winston's mentor, who's got too much of a dark side and dies by the end of the series.
He's a wild card.
That is my guess. And then Winston sort of takes the reins.
Probably. All right, on to better Mels. Mel Brooks, at the age of 95, is making History of the World Part 2 as a Hulu series alongside Nick Kroll and Wanda Sykes. That's so cute. With production slated for spring. I imagine that is supposed to say 2022. Good. Yes. Yes. Let's get this going. It's so fun that a 95-year-old Mel Gibson is still working. And I just hope that he gets to do everything he pleases at this point in his life. Eric, you're excited for this?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, look, first of all, how do you not like Mel Brooks? And how do you not appreciate the dude at 95 being like, yeah, sure, I'll create and help EP and write a new TV series. And that's a fun group of people he's got doing it with him. It is funny that it's specifically like a sequel to one of his films from decades ago, and not even like one of his most high profile. Like, it's like there's the ones like Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, Spaceballs. There's like the ones that everyone knows. History of the World Part 2 is not one that the youths would know.
No.
So it is a funny thing, but if you know the movie, it's like, sure, why not? Legacy sequels, man. There's money in legacy sequels.
So I hope he gets to do whatever he wants. But I mean, in my heart of hearts, I wish that he got another real crack at Spaceballs again, because the cartoon doesn't count. But that would have been, there's literally so much more material that could use an update.
In the 90s, in one of those aforementioned trades, I will, because young me was like reading the trades, I remember them announcing Spaceballs 3: The Search for More Money. That was the title. And I was very sad we never got that film.
Yeah.
And there's been so many Star Wars movies since.
Yes. So. Well, all right. We have time for one fan question before the Dune junket, and it is relevant because this is your situation, Eric. Adam Halbert writes, seeing Dune tomorrow, but I've avoided reading the novel. I love Denis, but wonder, will my lack of experience affect my opinion of it? What say you? You were in the same boat, Eric.
I mean, first of all, I'll plug the review that Kim and I did of Dune that you can watch right here on Fandom at YouTube. And it was interesting because Kim went in with like a lot of love for the franchise and history with it, and I went in 100% cold. This was my first thing Dune, and I guess maybe not shockingly, because you kind of knew going in this will be a quality film by a quality filmmaker. She was more enthusiastic than me, even though I also liked the film. So yeah, I don't think that will be a huge shock to people, that like if you go in loving Dune and you get a really well done adaptation of Dune, you'll probably be even happier than someone who goes in cold and goes, that was cool, that's an interesting new world for me. So yeah, but I don't think it didn't hurt me. I mean, you watched the review, but I mean, up front they do a lot of exposition because they have to. There's some VO and there's some like lessons Paul is getting that's kind of there to be like, here's the stuff we're not going to tell you that you can't read all the books to get. But I understood that, and I thought, they did it as well as they could. So I would just say that I think you can still definitely enjoy this film, Adam, if this is your first Dune, as it is for me.
Well, there you go. I'm psyched. It's my first Dune. Well, not my first Dune movie. Come on. But it's the first of two because we're going to all watch this, so it gets a sequel, right? And it comes out tomorrow
night. Yeah, tomorrow night.
In
theaters, and tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern, it will be available on HBO Max.
There you go. Mark your calendars, folks. And to get you extra hyped, let's kick it over to Kim, who sat down with some of the people involved in Dune. Eric, who's she actually talking to?
Who did she talk to? She talked to Brolin and Bautista. I think she got a Skarsgård in there. She got Denis. She got like several people, and they talked a lot about the influence of Dune. Dune is one of those things where even if you haven't seen or read Dune, you felt its influence because it was so impactful in other sci-fi things. Even me watching the movie, I go, oh, okay. So they talk a lot about that, and certainly how Star Wars owes a debt of gratitude to Dune.
Oh yeah. All right, let's watch it. We'll see you next week. Bye, y'all.
First of all, how much were you aware of the vast influence that Dune has had on science fiction movies, like both before and after, then after taking on your roles?
I was obviously a huge fan of Star Wars growing up. And it was kind of, God, really, when I read the books, I didn't even make the connection. It's when somebody pointed out after I read the book, and I read the book when I was offered the role, is when someone pointed out the connections. Then I started to see all the connections, and then I started to search for all the connections. But it was never something that I was well aware of until I was involved in this film.
Yeah, same with me. I wasn't aware of it until I started. I mean, I hadn't read the book before either.
I grew up watching Star Wars, and that was an experience of a lifetime when you were a little kid. And then of course Blade Runner, and those two are the biggest. An Alien.
But it's nice when they're about humanity, you know what I mean? And that's where, if you look at Star Wars, like especially when you were young, all you were experiencing was the movie and the story itself. But as you get older, you're like, wait a second, what does this remind me of? This is Dune. That's Leia. Do you know what I'm saying? So so it's nice to be able to go back to the source material. You can't go back and refer to anything else, because this was solely created for his own kind of ethics and morals and all that.
The blueprint of so many sci-fis with regards to visuals, with regards to the formula as well. You know, young boy loses contact with the family, or things go wrong. He has to find his destiny. You know, it's all, there are all hints of many other films that we know and love. So to see them all incorporated within this story, you just go, oh my gosh, the man was well ahead of his time for sure.
Do you have any favorite sci-fi films?
I back in the time that I remembered, sort of Junie for me was Flash Gordon, but the big one for me was Star Wars, without a doubt. I remember running around in the playground pretending to be Princess Leia.
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Where the fear is gone, only I will remain.
I know that you know how influential Dune is. I wondered if you could talk me through how it's influenced some of your favorite sci-fi movies.
Well, yeah, the first one that comes to mind definitely is Star Wars. I mean, it's like it's crazy the amount of stuff that has been taken out of the novel to create Star Wars. And I, frankly, in a great way, I think that in a way you could say that Star Wars is an interesting adaptation of Dune.
And you said one of your biggest challenges was avoiding recalling Star Wars, you know, iconography within the film. But how hard was that for you?
One of the genius of Star Wars, I think, is design. And I think that it was very revolutionary what they did at the time. It was like completely unique, and still today, it's a massive reference for everybody in sci-fi. The key that we had two tools, two weapons that we use to try to move away from Star Wars, which is Frank Herbert description himself. We went back to the novel and inspire and try to be as close as possible to what the Frank Herbert had described in his book, and nature, Mother Nature, trying to inspire ourselves from nature and to ground this world into a reality that makes total sense in relationship with the environment.